Vladimir Putin's Russian army could soon suffer the most humiliating defeat in the northern front in Ukraine. Now, this news is not confirmed. The Ukrainian army is keeping quiet, understandably, and they may yet fail. But there are now signs that the Ukrainians are close to cutting off part of Putin's army that's trying to encircle the capital, Kyiv, and starve it to death. Now, the Ukrainians have actually counterattacked to the rear and to the west of this advance, almost cutting it off and reportedly having now clear sight of the supply lines, which means they can blow up Russian trucks bringing in food and ammunition. Again, this is not confirmed. It's chatter from journalists, etc. But the British do say, the Ministry of Defence says, there has been a counterattack. And a Pentagon spokesman says, yes, many Russian soldiers are now suffering from hunger and frostbite. In fact, Ukrainian intelligence yesterday released audio of a Russian officer from another front saying half his soldiers, half, were now frostbitten. And this is starting to look like Napoleon's disastrous invasion of Russia. Some Russian propagandists are now so angry at these setbacks, they're unhinged. Let me now play you a clip of a prominent commentator who heads the Expert Advisory Council, the head of the Russian-controlled Crimea, which Russia stole from Ukraine. Here is ranting on government-owned Russian TV without anyone on the panel contradicting him. He's threatening Europe with nuclear bombs if it intervenes.
В Европе надо передать простую вещь. Вы получите ядерный удар по территории Европы в случае, если вы соберетесь там с какой-нибудь миротворческий контингент НАТО создать, в случае, если вы соберетесь его куда-то там вводить и прочее, да, это будет ядерная война.
А да. Это было и сказано французским
это будет ядерная война, вы должны это
февраля.
Понимать. Значит, храбрые поляки, от вашей Варшавы не останется за полсекунды ничего.
Joe Biden's new pick for the Supreme Court, so that's the highest court in America. She's now facing confirmation hearings in the US Senate to see if she's a fit and proper person, etc., etc. She was asked what I thought was this dead easy question. Here she is.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
Rowan Dean, do you actually need to be a biologist to know what a woman is, or a veterinarian to know what a dog is, or
no, you don't, Andrew.
A horticulturalist to know what an apple is?
No, you don't. And, you know, if this woman who's, you know, being nominated for the Supreme Court can't even tell us what a woman or a man is, then she obviously has no place on making judgments over men and women across the country. But this question, Andrew, it's brilliant because it came out of Britain, where two Labour MPs, senior Labour MPs in the UK Labour Party, could not answer the question on International Women's Day, a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, when asked, both of them independently, what is a woman? Neither of them could answer that question. Now, the question should be put to every Labour woman and every Liberal woman, because there's plenty of woke Liberals out there. It should be the first question you ask anyone standing for Parliament. Can you please define a man and a woman? Because if they can't, it shows, Andrew, they are captive to this entire neo-Marxist, left-wing, hardcore idea of turning the world on its head, turning truths upside down, the Orwellian concept that black is white, that war is peace, that man is woman and woman is man, and so on. It should be the most fundamental question we ask all our politicians. I'm glad that Anthony Albanese said, yes, men can have babies. But, you know, again, as I said before, I wouldn't be surprised if there are meetings that have taken place where Anthony Albanese has said exactly the opposite. And I bet he didn't say that when he was marching down Oxford Street 2 weeks ago. I listened carefully. I did not hear, "Oi, you lot over there, men can't have babies," from our supposed next Prime Minister. Had we heard that, then maybe we could take his word today in the Daily Telegraph.
Daisy, I reckon Judge Jackson should have then been asked the follow-up question, right? You don't know how to define a woman. You know, you got no idea what a woman really is, you know, definition-wise. The follow-up question should have been, well, are you a woman? I wonder what she would have said then.
Well, yes, I wonder indeed, Andrew. That would seem the obvious follow-up. Look, it's obvious to me that Judge Jackson was trying to be woke. She was trying to be kind of woke and left-wing to sort of appease the progressive demographic and hoping that the activists wouldn't come after her. Because, of course, this ties into the sort of left-wing radical gender theory notion that gender is a spectrum. It's not connected to chromosomes or biological sex or anything like that, and it's something you can simply identify with. So that's what she's kind of trying to navigate. But the problem is, Andrew, her answer actually was, by definition, dare I say it, quite transphobic, if you are in that realm of thinking, because she said that she couldn't define what a woman was because she's not a biologist, therefore implying that gender is somehow connected to biological sex, which is the big no-no of trans activists. There's a virulent school of activists out there who would be screaming from the rooftops if a conservative said that, so we'll see if they get her on it. I don't know, but yet another example, Andrew, of the left trying to be woke and failing miserably.
But first, now later in the show I'm going to talk about the politics around the death of Labor Senator Kimberley Kitching, a friend of mine who died of a suspected heart attack a week ago, after telling friends like me of the stress that she was under from bullying by people in her own party. Excuse me, alleged bullying, but I know who I believe. Because 3 of the women she named, the mean girls, well, they denied ever happened, and I guess Kimberley must have just made it all up. I won't get into that here, that's for later, because I'm just back, literally 5 minutes ago, from Kimberley's funeral at St Patrick's Cathedral in Melbourne. Now, Kimberley was a Catholic, which was one of the things that made her so fully a civilised woman, a champion of human rights, a foe of communist China. I mean, someone who understood the profound difference between good and evil and freedom and tyranny. I mean, leaving the funeral, we talked to another friend of mine, a Liberal, who picked up, or Kimberley had given a lift to, 3 or 4 weeks before she died. Said, how are you going? You look terrible. Kimberley cried. And this friend of ours took her inside and she poured her heart out about the bullying. Don't tell me there was no bullying. Don't tell me at all. I saw her 6 days before her death. Don't tell me there was no bullying. So what should Albanese have said today when this trashing of Kimberley Kitching was raised with him? I reckon he should have called it for what it was. A dirty smear that didn't even make sense. Instead, he said this, not exactly endorsing it, he couldn't do that, but giving a little push, adding a little detail.
I saw that speculation today. I'm not aware of the basis of that speculation. Kimberley Kitching's passing is a tragedy. And the idea that we can answer a question about whether Kimberley Kitching spoke to someone at any particular time or not, I'm not aware of. I read today, for example, about Kimberley Kitching having a discussion with the Vice President of the Liberal Party, I think Tina McQueen. That's the first I've heard of it. But Kimberley Kitching's passing is a tragedy. And I think that Kimberley Kitching deserves much better than an ongoing discussion about whether she spoke to the Vice President of the Liberal Party or someone else at any particular time.
Oh, that fox. That reference to Tina McQueen was actually about something I told you last night. That Tina McQueen had found Kimberley crying 2 or 3 weeks before she died and simply asked her, what's wrong? And now there's just sneakily added as well. See, she talked to anyone. There's Albanese adding to a list of Kimberley's alleged sins, why she couldn't be trusted. How low can you go? And this is going to be our Prime Minister in 2 months. We said never again after World War II, and we said never again after the Holocaust. But did we mean it? Did we really mean that we would stop such crimes ever happening again? Or were they just cheap words? This war in Ukraine has gone on now for 4 weeks. Now, we in the West have made many fine speeches, we've posted lots of I stand with Ukraine hashtags, and more usefully, we've sent over many weapons. And it's true, the Ukrainians have used those weapons as they have fought like heroes to almost stop the Russian advance. almost. But the Russians, in their frustration, now resorting to the most ghastly war crimes. You take the key coastal city of Mariupol, 500,000 people. Unable to conquer that city, the Russians are now just starving it out and bombing it flat. It's like scenes from Dresden. They're bombing even bomb shelters, including a drama theatre where hundreds of people are still believed missing under the ruins, buried alive. Ukraine's security services also issued what it says are intercepted calls of Russian troops, saying they have orders to kill even children.
Теперь сказали, всех хуярить, всех подряд, гражданские, дети, не дети, всех хуярить, сказали, всех.
Joining me again from the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, is Ukrainian MP Inna Sovsun, who's the deputy head of the pro-European political party Holos. Inna Sovsun, thank you so much for sparing us your time. It's a terrible time for you. The Russian government overnight said Mariupol had to surrender by noon today, Australian time, and anyone who didn't surrender and leave the city would face a Russian military tribunal for their alleged crimes. What do you think that means?
Well, it doesn't really matter what the Russians mean, because they will say whatever. They are lying all the time. They're pathological liars. And I think that only means that they will continue doing to Mariupol what they have been doing for the past 3 weeks, which is basically keeping civilians hostage, bombarding the city every 30 minutes, not allowing humanitarian corridors or allowing only a very small number, and keep on bombarding the places where they specifically know children are hiding. That is the tribunal that they are talking about here in Mariupol, which is terrifying. The news from there are heartbreaking. And I actually very much want to thank you for using the words never again, and how that promise has not been kept here in Ukraine. I'm sorry to say this, but this is very much the feeling here, is that we are betrayed by the majority of the world and not getting the support that we believe we deserve in fighting for our freedom and, our dignity. And Mariupol is the biggest case in that. We would have been able to save them if we get the jets, if we get the no-fly zone. Many people would be alive.
Inna Sovsun, look, I'm sorry, I can't disagree with you. I think we have betrayed Ukraine. I mean, we've given a lot of help, but it's not enough. Right now, the Mariupol City Council says that several thousand residents have been deported to Russia. I haven't heard any confirmation of that. What can you tell us about it?
So from what we know, and they have reconfirmed it over the night, and we are 10 in the morning here in Ukraine, they've reconfirmed it again. The Russians are taking people from Mariupol, sending them to Russia, to what they apparently call the filtration camps. The usage of the word itself is scary and so much reminiscent of the World War II. And then they're being sent to distant areas in Russia to work for free. So people are supposed to sign documents saying that they will work for free for 2 or 3 years in the place where they have been located. This is basically the modern slavery. This is the Nazi state that the Russian state is right now. And they continue doing that. Again, that it was reconfirmed over the past couple of hours by the city mayor. So I do believe he has very good sources when he's saying that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be, talking about it so much.
Speaking of Russia, Sabi now smashing Ukraine to pieces. A new trick from them, a new scam. Yeah, it's been hard for Russia to look good when it's out there killing men, women and children indiscriminately every day in a totally unjustified invasion. But Russia now has a success. It's hitting the social media with a video boasting about a hoax it pulled on 2 British ministers, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace and Home Secretary Priti Patel. Now, the first video it's released shows Wallace being rung up by a man claiming to be the Ukrainian Prime Minister. In fact, it was a Russian hoaxer who wanted to trap Wallace into saying that Britain supported Ukraine getting a nuclear weapon. And Wallace's response, in this clip you'll see, is edited to remove the bit where he says he actually said no.
It's a difficult question, but we think to start it.
Okay. But do you think, I think more than being neutral, Russia would really hate that.
For sure. We know this, of course, but this is one of the questions that we are interested. But if you could help us in this regard, it would be really, really important.
Okay, well, look, I, Mr. Prime Minister, on all those bigger questions, I think those are questions that I need to speak to my Prime Minister. The principle is we will support Ukraine as our friend in the choices you make.
Now, this is very interesting on two levels. First, this hoaxer clearly wanted Wallace to say something that would look like Britain supporting a Ukrainian nuclear bomb, which would then give Vladimir Putin more fake excuses for attacking Ukraine in supposed self-defense. Maybe even give him an excuse to use a nuclear bomb himself, which Western experts are now suggesting is a possibility. And the second thing is this. How did this hoaxer get through to Wallace and also to Patel? I mean, her tape's not released yet, that's coming. And now you might say, well, gee, boy, the British have slacked security here. But I'd suggest that this hoaxer probably had high-level help. This video is the work of two Russian professional pranksters called Vovan and Lexus. And they've also pranked Elton John, for instance. They say they do it for entertainment. Now, they get paid a fair bit for it. But strangely, many of their targets also happen to be people that President Putin would love to embarrass or use for propaganda, like this British Defence Secretary. Their targets have also included a former Ukrainian president, a former Georgian leader who stood up to Putin, former Russian leader Mikhail Gorbachev, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, but 4 years ago. And they also pranked the Dutch Parliamentary Committee to try to get it to say something embarrassing about Russia's top opposition politician, Alexei Navalny, who Putin had poisoned and then jailed. In fact, the pranksters have called various European lawmakers pretending to be a key Navalny aide, using disguises or deepfake imagery. The real Navalny aide is on the left and the fake one is on the right. Now, to call up all these world leaders and politicians, that takes a lot of work, a lot of technology, also a lot of private numbers. Is the Russian security service actually helping them with those? Now, Vovan and Alexa say no, but they do admit they are Putin supporters and they've never attacked Putin or his closest entourage, not once. And I would not trust the word of one of them in a fit. What does it say about Vladimir Putin? That even his biggest PR coup in this war is still based on a lie.